Give you a little.
Is my distance from my mic proper?
That's good, and that's
awesome.
main reason for the headphones is just. So I'm sure you've done a little bit before.
Yeah.
So Bryan Moats in the studio. Good to sit down with you, man.
Yeah.
Local artist, maybe self-sustainability expert.
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean,
do-it-yourself guru.
Do-it-yourself-er.
Okay,
that's probably the most honest way of going.
I just saw you just did a chicken coop.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That turned out super nice.
It's really, not nice is not the word, but it looks, I mean, it's fun to look at for sure. It's really not, especially, I wouldn't call it safe for chickens yet. I mean, it'll house them.
Does it meet OSHA standards?
No, far from it.
Did you build it all out of pallets?
Mostly, yeah. The thing that got it to its point now was a lot of patience. I was there. There's a lot of weird phases that went into the making of that because it just sort of the lack of funding for just like, new materials at that size of a coop. I knew my biggest priority was that size, to meet that size of a coop. And my second priority was to make it was to do it super cheap. Well, actually, you can say equal priority for that matter. So, but I didn't. A lot of it was just materials. I was just Facebooking, like, who's got what? You got pallets? Let me know. And a lot of people said, yeah, totally, come get ours. But they, a good majority of them would be rotted and stuff like that. So, I took them home, and super grateful for everyone that, offered whatever they did. And by just bringing it home, tear it apart and throw the terrible wood in one pile, throw the good wood in the rest of the pile, and just figure out where I can go from there. And then I made a lot of it that way. And then I got some salvaged plywood from a house that was being torn down.
Oh yeah,
nearby.
That goes on so much.
Mm-hmm.
When we remodeled our gym that you've been in a couple of times, it was so funny. The first time I saw you come in, I'm like, do I need to ask that guy if he wants to try a class? Like I had not seen you, and then I was convinced that you had kids that were there in the class. We have so many people that come and go. I'd seen you in the gym a couple of times, but we're kind of right by. We've been in this location in this house for 6 months. We're wanting to do a chicken coop too, man.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's fun. It's hard. It really. It's fun and hard. I'm sure no matter how much money you got to invest in it, but I'm in a way I'm glad that I was completely broke when I started it because I learned a lot that way. I've I almost imagine like kind of myself as like a modern day homesteader, a little bit, but I don't know. I just have like this vision in my head from early Ozark travelers or homesteaders like moving in and just being like, well, we got trees,
Yeah, no. Well, and you guys are definitely. I would say I don't know exactly where you live other than vicinity wise, and right. I know where one of our boxers lives over by y'all, but definitely you could say out in the country.
Yeah, Tim lives nearby. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I've been noticing some houses. We went down and did some shooting out north of Dover.
Gotcha.
And there was a house being torn down there, and I saw a whole bunch of wood, and I was just like,
oh. That's good stuff. I taught myself a lot because I'd never built anything that big. I'd build the smaller, chicken tractor, on wheels, pick it up that housed 6 chickens at the most. That we've been keeping them in, but I'd never gone any bigger than that. But
how many chickens do you have now?
Now, including the rooster, we have 15.
Wow.
Yeah, we got 9 just the other day.
I've been fascinated by chickens because I didn't know anything about chickens till recently. My grandma had them growing up, and it like the whole how they brood. Mm-hmm. That is such an interesting thing that goes on.
Yeah. So far, we don't have any chickens that really brood. Like they're not broody as they say. Like they'll lay an egg and they'll just let it be. They'll just I guess more or less forget about it. I mean, I pray, that the chickens aren't counting how many eggs they've lost because I mean it's
I would get upset too. I guess
for real. So, but none of these chickens so far that we've had before was we had like 5. We had 5 hens and the rooster before, and then we got the 9 just the other day. And none of them so far are very broody. They'll just lay an egg in the nest, that I provided for them, and then they'll just leave it be, and they'll sleep on the perch, and just. I'll pick them up and the eggs, not the chickens, but and they'll just go about their business, and it's like they're never like there was nothing ever there before. It's really interesting. I mean, what other species does that?
I know. Well, and then too, so I didn't know about this, and I felt like a childlike not knowing. I guess it makes sense, but so and maybe you can explain this to me a little better. So the rooster, if he does not come in the hen house, the eggs will not actually become chickens. Is that true?
Correct. Yeah,
Does it have to like touch the egg or something? Or?
No. I mean, he has to mate. Basically, they have to mate. The chickens will still lay eggs. And this was news to me. In my adulthood,
Me too. I just found this out a few weeks ago.
They will lay an egg, no problem, but it will never become a chicken, no matter how hard they sit on it, or unless the rooster isn't there to intervene, do his thing, and make it so the population can grow. But so fortunately, we didn't actually have the rooster for a long time. I don't remember what convinced us to finally get a rooster, but maybe just to kind of help with the hen protection, because he's very protective. But I don't know. I mean, he's kind of mean too, but not. Yeah. He's not the worst rooster I've ever heard about. But he can be rude to the other chickens. He's gotten to a place where he knows not to pick on the humans. He knows that, even kids.
That's good.
An unfamiliar dog or something might come by, and he'll dash at it, or kind of just jump at it. But even then, he doesn't really assert himself in a terrible way.
Have you guys had any problems with predators or anything with your chickens?
Not yet.
That's good. There's got to be coyotes out there. There's coyotes in town.
There's a lot of coyotes out there. We hear them every once in a while, cackling out in the woods.
I right out here hear them a lot too, across in the woods.
Yeah. Our theory is that they don't, at this point, they haven't bothered us because there's a lot of dogs on the property. Like we live on kind of a strip of land, and there's a few houses on it too, going either direction. There's always dogs marking that territory, just continually. So my theory is that they just don't want to mess with that.
Isn't that interesting? So I heard this, there's been a few different people. Joe Rogan's had some guests on that are coyote experts. He's super fascinated by coyotes, and leash laws in towns have been one of the things that's caused, like over by the gym, we're kind of next to some swampy area on Parkway, but really we're in town. But we see coyotes over there crossing Parkway, like from the railroad tracks, like over going into the woods, between like our gym and Phoenix, like the overpass extension they put in. I've seen maybe 3 or 4 over in there, and the neighbors Elmo back in behind us, where that field and everything is between kind of like us and Tech direction, he said they see him back there like daily. That's
really interesting to me, because they seem to avoid us in terms of just like being seen. I've never actually seen any except for when I went walking.
They are sneaky, I hear.
Shine my light out in the trees, and I can see pairs of eyes looking back at me, but other than that, I've actually never seen one with my eyes out there.
That's
like in the daylight, at least, for sure. So
they're apparently everywhere. There's I saw a video just this week of a coyote in Manhattan. Like it's weird. They're in every that, and another thing that's become more of an issue for various reasons is wild pigs. You guys see any hogs or anything out?
No, there's supposed to be boars and things out there.
Millions in property damage a year are caused. Yeah, they've started in some areas. They will hunt them by helicopter.
Wow. Yeah. I guess that's probably easier. Yeah, because they're dangerous. They can be, at least.
Yeah. No. Definitely those tusks.
Yeah. Ooh. The speaking of tusk, the Razorback, the Arkansas Razorback live pig. Its home is actually really close to our house.
Really?
So during the season, sports seasons, I don't know which games it goes to, but you'll see this super slow. The guy is the driver of the truck that drives the trailer. It's got to be one of the best guys ever, because no one drives slower out there than him. We live on a dirt road. People just zoom by when they go by, because there's no signs.
No repercussions, really, and no speed limit.
And you can, most of the stretches you can see a good distance, so you can feel confident enough to drive fast. I wish they wouldn't, but they do. But this guy just drives like a snail, I love it. And he'll go past with an empty trailer, and then 15 minutes later, he'll come back slowly by with Tusk in the back.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so we'll wave, When we first moved out there, of course, we'd have him stop once or twice for the kids to see Tusk too, and it was great. But man, I love that guy because he's just like, he's not in any hurry.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool. So is he owns Tusk, or he works for the university and just kind of couriers?
Yeah, I think he works for the university in whatever capacity. Other capacities, I don't know, but I don't think he owns Tusk. I think, or actually, I'm not even sure if the university owns Tusk. I think it's possible that it's probably actually.
Tusk is a consultant for the University of Arkansas.
Yeah. He can get his own transportation and everything. But I think he's actually owned by whoever takes care of him nearby, and just they probably get paid to.
Mascots is such an interesting topic. Tech is in the process, whether they admit it or not, of changing their mascot from the Wonder Boys to the Bulldogs.
Oh, really?
So if you've picked up on anything, there's Jerry the Bulldog.
Okay.
And Jerry the Bulldog shows up at all these events and everything. So it's kind of like a hearts and minds approach they're taking.
Sounds like, yeah.
So
that's funny.
Well, the alumni are just apparently super pissed about it.
Yeah.
I don't really care one way or the other. I'm like, well, what's a Wonder Boy? But then it's like, I have no problems with Bulldogs whatsoever.
Yeah.
The only problem I would have is like, it's super sad that people fight any dog, but Bulldogs I feel like get used more for those purposes.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
but man, all the pit bulls I've met have been super good dogs.
Oh yeah, they're wonderful dogs. The only downside to them, they're sweet, they're loyal, they're loving, they're gentle with who they need to be gentle with. But the only problem is when they do decide to attack for whatever reason, it's over. They win. So I mean, they're wonderful, super dogs. And we had a little puppy for a while that was a stray. Did
you guys find a home?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, we did. We found a great place for him, and I think he's going to be he's going to be in great company.
It was a boy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I didn't know if I thought it was a girl or not. Just watching on Facebook.
Wait, actually, now that I'm saying, no, it was a girl. Yeah, she was a girl. Thank you. I don't know why I said.
I couldn't. I just saw you guys posting about trying to find a home for it.
Yeah. I guess I've already mentally disconnected from it.
Yeah. Man, Pet, so sorry my dog jumped in your car. That is so crazy.
My dog's in there all the time. She probably smelled it. So yeah.
Yeah, he does enjoy going for rides. He's just a year old.
Oh, really?
He's a giant.
He really is.
Yeah.
He's a big dog.
Yeah, he's right at 100 pounds. He turns 1 year old May 1st.
Gotcha. He's super sweet.
Yeah, he's a good dog. He gets wound up when people. I don't know. It's the one thing we cannot like. He's so chill when people are not here.
Yeah.
And then when someone comes over, he's like,
people dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep. Oh man, my audio is gotten a little weird here. Mm-hmm. This happens periodically. That's why I've been talking about this on the podcast a little bit, is to get a podcasting supercomputer thrown together, like a custom build that I don't ever have to worry about. Like I'm going to use it for the live feed, use this as a monitor, get a wireless keyboard set up. And now I'm just starting to kind of get some decorations going in here. I had a music room across the hall, but
there you go.
My wife took it away.
Got to give and take.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I do have the sweet studio. So
it is great. I love it in here.
I'm working on it. I'm going to end up moving this probably to my office at the university in Morrilton, just for doing. This is a really cool mic, Blue Yeti. It's just a USB mic. Plug it straight into the computer. I'm going to use it for my lecture recordings.
It looks nice. Looks like
portability.
Yeah,
it's super durable. It's got a little stand that goes with it, so I can put it on the table, and then this little boom arm right here.
Nice.
Well, man, so you're a graphic designer by trade. Tell me a little bit about, and you're an artist on top of that. I saw you went to school recently in Little Rock and were exhibiting some of your art. So what? Tell me a little bit more about what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Well, that particular instance was I was invited to. So there's a place called Open House in Little Rock, which is among other things, it's like this particular class was there for like after school sort of activities and stuff like that. Somewhat of like, an at-risk place for at-risk kids to come and, learn and be safe and have fun and meet different people.
That's kind of our goal with the gym, with the nonprofit side of the gym, actually. Facilitate that.
Perfect. And that's what I was invited to come and just talk as sort of in my capacity as the theme for my talk was comics, and I actually don't have a deep experience with comics. I have a lot of experience with reading them, of course, for years, but so I wasn't able to really tell them about experiences as a comic book artist, but I've done plenty of like sequential art kind of things. And what I was telling you about before we started, I think, or at the very beginning was, the book that that Meredith and I are working on is obviously sequential art. If it's a children's book, it's in a sequence more or less usually. So I was able to tell them kind of from that, and I also actually drew. The week before I came in, I drew an actual like one page, more of a web comic than anything.
So you're doing illustrations. How do you do that? Just like if you Photoshop, you do them by hand, and then
a little bit of both. Photoshop is, if I do anything in Photoshop, it's usually kind of the last thing to maybe fix a few things, but almost all of it will take place either in the sketchbook and then Procreate on my iPad. Procreate is just the most amazing.
Yeah, what's that?
Art, illustration and drawing program, basically. And I use my Apple Pencil and.
Yeah, I've seen those Apple Pencils.
Yeah, I mean, aside from it just feels like you're drawing on glass all the time, so that's kind of annoying. But aside from that, I mean,
I imagine you were a boss with an Etch-a-Sketch back in the day. You remember those?
Actually,
I could not do it. I couldn't do anything.
Yeah,
on
me neither.
that.
It was extremely frustrating. I didn't spend enough time trying to hone in on my Etch-a-Sketch skills when I was a kid. I wonder if I'm sure I could have, but I didn't. But yeah, no, I just love that, just the ability just to draw and paint anything you want to.
You ever used the program Paint back in the day?
Oh yeah.
I guess they stopped making that for PCs.
So, yeah. And Corel Draw, that was my first experience in high school.
I've seen some comic book illustrators use, and this may be what you're doing in the same technology or whatever with your iPad. Is like basically you would plug it into USB and it gives you like a notebook sort of platform, and you can draw on that. I've seen some people use that for illustrations.
Yeah. There's I have a really small kind of janky version of it, and I'm gonna butcher it every time I gotta say it out loud. But it's Wacom or Wacom. I think it's Wacom. I looked into it one day. I finally really got
words like that make me like my dad when I was growing up had a toolbox and it says JOBOX. And it's like, but people would call it a job ox. Like, hey, it's the ox that hauls all my tools to the job. Exactly. Or some people would be like, no, it's a Joe box. It's a toolbox. And I was like, I don't know what it's called.
I think it's supposed to be job box, and they just use one B for the front.
Yeah,
because you take it to the job.
And I'm still talking about it years later. So they won.
Yeah, exactly. For real, exactly. That's the point. That they did their research, and they stumbled onto a little gold mine of a combination of words. And of course, I've never seen that brand. So maybe
I guess they sell them at Leonard's maybe now, because I've seen them over the years here and there, and then on the interstate I'll see them in the back of people's trucks, and I'm like, I hope my dad put in the back of his truck one time.
That's great. That's funny.
Anyway.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So, what I say, I think it's a Wacom. I think that's supposed to be the industry true pronunciation of the brand. Anyway, Wacom just sounds dirty to me, so I try not to say it if I don't have to.
It could be like a Wacom with a knife hand.
Right. Exactly. But so there's that brand. And they have the bamboo series and stuff like that, but there's also the one that I would die to have, which is basically you're drawing on it, you're looking at your screen, your computer screen, basically. Ooh. So you could also look up at your monitor if you wanted to and actually see.
Yeah, that's
what you're doing.
Cool.
But basically, so it really feels like you're drawing a lot more like that. And of course, there's the controls that you see on your screen, and there's the physical buttons on the side.
What's retail on something like that? Any idea?
Those large ones are $600, $700, $800 maybe. I think I've always made the assumption that I couldn't afford it, so I've never looked into those. And the smaller ones are usually $200 or $300. The ones that don't have these screens, just
that's not as bad as I thought.
I could be underestimating.
Well,
pricing it.
I've been looking at all this different software for the podcast to be able to do. I would like to be to pull a camera in on you and a camera in on me, and be able to switch with those without having to have somebody do it for me.
Yeah.
So there's a thing called a TriCaster that allows you to go live. It allows you to switch cameras. A lot, and two, another thing is to be able to do a screen capture.
Okay.
So like, let's say I would be like, oh, hey, I'm just going to pull this up and look at it.
Right.
That's another thing. I'm like, my audio program, sometimes like I'll be doing a YouTube upload or this Microsoft 365 or whatever kicked on. It kicked my audio off.
Oh, man.
So I got to get a better setup than this here. But the audio I get on the camera is actually way better.
Oh, that's good.
So I just I hate having to split it off every time, even though that's probably what I'm going to move solely to doing. I want to bring the video and the audio at the same time into the computer and just bypass having to do separate feeds.
Yeah.
But this thing, the TriCaster, is like $1,000 or something.
Yeah,
and there's actually free software that can do it if you have the right video card, the right processor, and the correct amount of memory. So that's been luckily. I was telling Meredith about. I saw she's given oral history talk, public history.
An oral history workshop she's teaching.
Cool. So our wrestling coach, and I haven't been able to introduce him yet, but his name's Aaron MacArthur, and he also like builds computers. But he's Tech's public historian, teaches oral history, runs the museum. He was on the podcast. Be a good episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, he got his PhD at UNLV. He was on Pawn Stars.
Nice.
So
fun.
Yeah, History
cool.
Channel.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's something that's kind of my next move is getting finish my studio, getting decorated, do something with this wall over here, and get to upgrade my cameras, and I've got a few other little things I've got to order. Man, cables.
Yeah, just them alone. Yeah.
Like I had to get a special cable to hook up my when I go from the TV to the mixer or from the headphone amp to the mics or to the headphones rather to the mic so we can hear. You have to have like a mono to stereo cable.
Oh, really?
So you can't just do like an instrument. Like I hook a guitar into this amp over here.
Right.
Wouldn't work the same way.
Huh. Weird.
Anyway.
Crazy.
Stuff I never would have known.
Yeah. Same here. Stuff I still don't know.
Yeah, man, I know there's whole degrees for audio engineering. Yeah. I didn't even know that. And then I was like, what do you mean you're an audio engineer? Like you work at a recording studio? And they're like, no, it's a degree, Pro Tools. I do all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it is interesting. And these people that are getting these audio engineering degrees are like becoming producers of podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
And they take the podcast to the next level.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've been discovering some stuff lately. It's just been blowing my mind, like the storytelling and stuff through podcasts.
Oh yeah.
The one that sticks out to me is maybe fairly well. It's not a very obscure example, but it's the Wolverine podcast from Marvel.
Really?
They have this amazing.
Oh, dude.
Like a radio drama.
I gotta check that out.
So good. I think it's just called Wolverine: The Long Night. That's what it's called. That's
what I was saying. I wonder if that's on YouTube as well. But that may be an example of one that's just on audio.
Yeah, it may have. I know that it was conceived of and I never thought of as anything more than just audio. They might have like a video version where it's just a still picture of the podcast logo or something on YouTube. But
there's I just got onto a new one. Somebody was talking about listening. It was about cults. It was a podcast about cults. I'm gonna see if I can.
I'm confusing that with the
Netflix special. They were doing one on Heaven's Gate.
Okay.
And I got into listening to it for a little bit, and I was like, that's something. I'm gonna do a run of history podcasts, and I'm wanting to do something on maybe we won't call them cults for lack of or fear of offending someone. We'll just say minority religions.
There we go.
Sure. But that's definitely an interest. Did you see? You guys have Netflix? I bet. Man, everybody I talk to lives kind of on the outskirts. It's horrible to stream.
Oh yeah, no, that particular series or just Netflix?
Just Netflix streaming things in general.
Yeah, we lucked out somehow. We got a. I mean, we're way out there. I mean, there's a big dead zone from the time you leave Dardanelle till you get to my house. Where you just can't.
I'm driving through there today, going to Mina.
Try not to be on the phone while you're going because you'll drop the call if it's an important phone call at least. But then you drive out to our house, you take your turns and whatnot, and you get what you think would be much further out and even worse. But we have maybe the signal's bouncing off the mountain or something. I don't know, but it's a great signal. So we just use.
You guys closer to Danville than Dardanelle?
We're almost about halfway in between.
Yeah.
See, it's pretty close to it. Like 10 or 11, it's 11 miles to Danville, and I think it's about something like 10 or so to back into Dardanelle. But anyway, the signal is great, but I can't get an actual internet service unless I want to do satellite.
Yeah.
And that's spotty a lot of times with the weather, so we just actually got a hotspot from AT&T.
Oh yeah, I've considered doing that myself.
It's great. We can watch TV and movies and all kinds of stuff. It's perfect. Somehow. Do
you know anything about I just like asking people that I don't, maybe you know something I don't, but about the whole net neutrality issues that are going on?
There was a time when, and I'm going to say this is 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, when it was
I know it came up back in the Obama, I think it was the second term.
Yeah, when it became sort of a hot topic for good reason. And then I was involved. I got involved just on a surfacey level, but then I think it kind of then it sort of took a back seat. Didn't really. They weren't pushing it as hard. I think because there was some victories of story. I've lost the story in my head. I don't remember, but and then after that, I just didn't get as. I wasn't as connected with it. So right now, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I'm not. As sure about what's going on right now either, but I do notice it's weird over the last few weeks. And it could just be because I'm always uploading stuff on YouTube from my phone, my iPad, or on this computer for either the podcast, or I've been really like tripling down trying to build our gym YouTube up. I uploaded like 18 videos this week.
Oh, wow, cool.
Just short little videos, technique videos. Yeah. And our people consume it and like it, and us people from abroad consume it too. But I noticed that if I'm doing, like, maybe Cora and I would be on our phones, and then we're streaming something on the TV, and then it's like nothing works.
Yeah.
And we didn't know. I've never had that issue previously, and I wonder if it's like the gist of what I think that, as I understand, is like, hey, we're going to put everyone in a slow lane, and then we're going to charge you to upgrade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, because there have been times where that's happened at our place too.
Yeah, but and it could maybe it could be weather, it could be a tower down.
Right. I think it's usually, at least in my case, it's been more related to things like that, where it's just like happenstance. It's not really.
Yeah, I could just be paranoid.
Yeah.
But that's something I noticed. Like we've only been living out here since July, and have remodeled, and they're still remodeling. If there's no trim in the hall, in case you didn't notice.
No, I didn't see.
But usually I'm like, sorry, my driveway is washed out, and if the weather holds, I'm getting 2 loads of gravel dropped tomorrow, so nice. It'll be totally different. Hopefully we can maybe have. So like, how involved are you with the McElroy house? Is it McElroy or McElroy?
The first way, McElroy.
Okay.
It looks like McElroy or McElroy.
I've heard a lot of people. Hope was saying it a different way.
But the McElroy family, and people related to it, have always said McElroy. There's no A in it. There's no Mac, but it looks like. But that's the way it is. Even my mom still says McElroy. Oh, it's McElroy. No one's offended, of course, but yeah. So it's McElroy House, and my level of involvement comes and goes, basically. Meredith as the founder, and she has plenty of members, that volunteer time or kind of have, I guess, formally and informally, really said, I'm a devoted, helper. I'm And they have
patron of
exactly
time, donating time or whatever.
Yeah, so this is definitely something that would be more accurately spoke of through Meredith, but I mean, like as far as like how the membership and responsibilities and stuff go, but it's a different model for that as compared to really the majority of other nonprofit organizations out there. As far as the day-to-day functioning of it goes, and they receive grants, but they don't really seek out grants, like big grants, as sort of a rule in a way. And there's a philosophy behind it. There's an organizing philosophy behind that reasoning, and the oversimplification of it is that other nonprofits there's a lot of nonprofits out there. They all need money, and the Macro House doesn't want to be an organization that is making it harder for other worthwhile nonprofits. We're all spending a lot of our time battling, for grants that we all probably need equally and would all do great things with equally. So the Macro House wants to try is basically, day by day, year by year, figuring out a different way of funding itself without just exerting so much energy on, trying to attain grants that they're just going to have to apply for again later. And then,
there are so many approaches that can be, and the promotion that goes into it is great. Like I'm hearing about it on the radio all the time.
Right.
So, and I know Meredith did, she did a radio and a press ad for our boxing show that you did the shirt for.
Right, yeah.
But the promotion that's going behind it, like I definitely know about it.
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
a lot of people do as well. I see. We actually threw the logo on the back of the shirt. Just
great. Awesome.
We love networking with people.
Yeah.
It's like in any way. That's how we are sitting here talking today, basically.
Exactly. That's how. Yeah.
But man, I just saw honestly, Meredith's got a peculiar. I met her when I was maybe an undergraduate or a graduate student at Tech.
Right.
And she was adjuncting, and then I had to film her a few times.
Okay.
And I just always thought, I was like, folklore is such a this interesting thing to be into, you know. I tagged her. There was this Arkansas Encyclopedia article about this crazy monster, and someone had actually done a podcast about it, and I shared it. And then I tagged her and I was like, do you know anything about this? And she's like, I edited the podcast. I was like, what?
Yeah, that's one of the ways we put food on the table, is because she's been an audio engineer, more or less, not with a degree, but she was the a host and producer of one of the Ozarks large programs at KUAF in Fayetteville. The NPR
cool.
program.
I didn't know that.
That was, before, that was in 2006, I guess, is when she was done with that. From like maybe 04 to 06. I may have the years off, but and she's really good at it. So she produced the actual episode, be the host of it, and also maybe actually like produce a story. It's just sort of like a radio magazine sort of thing. So like other people would produce shorts, like 5 minutes of story about things that are going on in the Ozarks and around the area. And it was really great. But
I love the Arkansas Encyclopedia. That's a great resource. I mean, and that's I was just I teach the Civ 2 class, and we just had a test this morning on French Revolution and the Enlightenment, or the Enlightenment and the French Revolution chronologically. And I had a couple of test questions on the encyclopedia, but Diderot and a bunch of the philosophers got together and came up with a encyclopedia at the time that they combined all these great minds in Europe. Voltaire and different people wrote like 71,000 articles for this encyclopedia on all manner of topics, like everything you can imagine. And it's like, well, that is a resource. Wow. Amazing, essays, just you name it, anatomy.
Wow.
So pretty interesting.
That's cool.
It is. I took classes, upper level classes on both of those topics, but I've picked up a lot of cool facts, like having to be on that side of the classroom, and I'm sure forgot a lot of cool facts too. So I need to go through all my notes from when I was. That's not me, is it? Yes, it is. I wonder if that's Morrilton, Arkansas. Maybe
Yeah.
they're trying to get me to do a full-time position out there,
Yeah,
which during the day, I mean, might cut into my podcasting a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is, I want to start doing more history podcast.
Yeah.
And recording my lectures and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's gonna be where I'm gonna, like, I haven't even launched my my first series I want to do is over 1968, and I haven't even launched it yet because I'm doing a lot of research on it, but I've just been doing all these other parts of the show, and it's going in a lot of cool directions. But,
cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, any other like do-it-yourself project-wise? I mean, are you guys are you trying to go off the grid eventually? Or are you just trying to just homestead, self-sustainability as much as possible?
That yes and yes and no and yes and no and yes. I'm not really sure.
Take it as it comes.
Yeah, we actually don't have that concrete of a goal that we could put a name on it. Really, I mean, our joke with each other is we'll know we will have reached success once we have a donkey. We've got a donkey, we're good.
Yes.
We've got and then 2 is just will be superfluous, but we can name the 2 names. We got it named already.
His and her donkeys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So one of them is going to be Don Quixote. Don Quixote isn't Don Quixote. Anyway, and the other one is I just went blank on the amazing name I came up with like a year ago. Orthodonkey.
Nice.
Orthodonkey and Don Quixote.
We have, Meredith may know this guy because he's been subbing at Dardanelle and around. I don't know if they've subbed together, but one of our boxers we call Donkey because he, like, when he smiles, he reminds us of Donkey from Shrek.
That's great.
We start calling him Donkey, and then he'll come to the gym, and now he'll go sub these kids that go to the gym. So we have a ton of kids at the gym, and they're like, "What's up, Donkey?" And he's like, "You gotta call me Coach Gregory." It's funny, man. Super funny. Yeah.
It's funny. Yeah, but so we don't really necessarily have any lofty goals, to attain some amount of sustainability. Well, I mean, that's sort of ultimately the goal every day, is just to do whatever we can do sustainably. But neither of us really have any a background to really be able to approach that in a sustainable way. So because we're really just trying to keep food on the table right now, that kind of thing, just to get Bash O Bash moving, and get and really just those are our goals, but to do that, we want to be able to have to not go into town to buy as much stuff at Walmart, and really just spend more time with our hands in the dirt, and I think that's kind of one of our ultimate goal. Ultimate, more simplified goals is just to be doing more on our own.
Doing a lot of gardening.
Oh yeah, a lot of gardening. I don't even know where to start with that because there's a lot of different things going on.
Tell me everything you can, because the chicken coop and the garden are my next 2 lofty goals. Gotcha. As soon as I get my driveway fixed.
Okay. Well, here's what I'm really glad we did to start out with, or we'd already started tilling the ground and kind of mapping things out in our heads before this happened. But early enough, I guess it was even the fall I did this, I think, once we were kind of settled in, because we moved last July to the place. And so once we kind of had the everything moved in and more or less settled, I basically just got a big piece of, just cheap newspaper print paper, like a big pad of it, and just started drawing out the master plan, a loose master plan, because it's changed a lot since then. But I just got my compass out, got my ruler out, and actually got my phone out. We have a good signal out there. Really fortunate. Just thank the heavens for that.
That can be so impeding. My parents are in a dead zone. I don't even like going out there.
Yeah. So I just grabbed my phone, went out there, and I just basically just mapped out the property, all the corners, and then the corners of the house, so I could actually take it and inside to my drawing table and look at my phone and actually print it out, sort of like this big version of a Google Maps version of it, to kind of trace it out onto the newspaper print paper. Newspaper print doesn't really matter. It's just the kind of paper it was doesn't matter, but I'm just talking about how big it was, basically. So I
Yeah.
can map it out and actually just start drawing. Say I'm going to put. I know my water line is here from the road, so I'm not going to dig here. And I know the neighbor's water line is nearby and it kind of curves over here, so I'm not going to dig here. So what can I do in this parameters? And what do we and also what seeds do we already own that we want to plant, and what seeds are we going to buy that we want to plant, or that kind of thing, or what do we think we eat? So we ordered a bunch of we order. I think most everything we get is from the Baker Creek seed catalog. They have just the most amazing stuff in there. But so we just basically just started mapping it all out. We already had the chicken area over here, and we knew we were expanding the chicken into a chicken run. So I actually have a big chicken run, and then the coop is inside of that. Which afterthought, I should have built the coop onto the outside of one of the walls of the run, so you have more room inside the run, and the coop isn't going to be necessarily any less vulnerable.
Yeah.
Especially from diggers and stuff like that. Yeah. But at the same time, they're doing fine the way it is too. So, but yeah, I mean that's really what I would do is just start mapping it out on paper as much as you can, and having fun with it. Mine doesn't make a lot of sense if you're my design, my master plan, the layout around the house doesn't make a lot of sense if you're like a true farmer or a true gardener, because it's really supposed to be more of a little bit aesthetically intriguing. There's a lot of circles built into it, so a lot of the corn and the where we have potatoes growing right now. That's what we actually have going. Potatoes and onions we have going on now because they don't freeze. They tend to not suffer from the frost. But they're all in these did
that frost the other day set you guys back in any way? Like
some of our seedlings bit it.
Man, what crazy.
Yeah, that's a bummer. But everything else, for the most part, did okay.
Yeah, I had a podcast guest on, and I said something about it. It was Jesse Weiss, and he had just I just frosted like the night before he came on, and he's like, yeah, and they say climate change isn't a thing, but it was just a funny little remark. But the weather has been a little odd.
Yeah.
We just experienced all spectrums of the seasons at once in the same 2-week span.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny. The neighbors, some like family friends / neighbors, it dropped by during that string of almost freezes and freezes, and they're like, yeah, that's why we haven't done this, and this. And I was like, I wish I would have thought of that, because they've been growing for years, and they're some older folks, so they've been a lot more experienced growing out there than we have. So
yeah,
I almost wish I would have called them up and said, hey, should I put these in the ground yet, or should I bring in the tomato seeds or whatever?
Well, I remember one year, it wasn't my dad had a garden several seasons when I was growing up, and if it wasn't the frost at that time that I remember, but it was the one year it just rained super hard, it rained probably that hard the other day, and just laid all his corn over. I mean, and it was decent size, and it just came this weird
out of blue.
Yeah, hailstorm and stuff, and heavy rains, and just obliterated everything. Yeah. So that happens too, I suppose.
It does. Yeah. We talked to because we also planted some apple and pear trees, and we talked to
nice.
One of the folks from the University Agriculture Extension out of Danville came and just talked to us and help us think it out. And it was just really neat that they do that. I mean, that's the same people that basically tested our soil to tell us what we were lacking, in terms of nutrients and stuff like that. They'll send somebody out to kind of just look at the place with you and say, hey, here's some steps you can take to make this better for this kind of thing. This region right here where you live, it's kind of every climate is a microclimate. There's a general climate, of course, but you have these little pockets, where maybe the cold sinks in a little bit colder, by a few degrees, and depending on where you are in any given place in the world. So he said, you might want to consider definitely not doing citrus right here because I feel like this is going to be a place where it's just going to keep on freezing in terms of bad for citrus. Other things like your apples and pears are going to do okay. So basically, it was really nice. That's why we just refrained from any sort of citrus and a few other things, but we got some apples and pears in there instead, and they're doing great.
I saw this is like I think a meme or something the other day, but someone shared it to raise some awareness, I'm sure. But it was someone was like, "What if you just planted apple trees and other fruit-bearing vegetation on the sidewalks in your communities that have a very high homelessness concentration?" And I was like, "Well, that seems like a noble undertaking." It seemed like a good idea. I'm sure that it has its logistical, and because I've been around apple trees and stuff that have they yield a lot of apples and it makes a mess and stuff. Right. I'm sure that the city wouldn't like that being on the sidewalk.
Yeah, but, laying down people's cars and
that too.
There's the whole equal eye issue. You're gonna poison the homeless people with some kind of so that I can definitely see the
pros and cons.
And there's a lot of there's more risks when you start providing unmonitored, unregulated food sources.
Yeah,
I could imagine. But at the same time, I think if we had the will, if there's a city or a county or a state that had the will to create, a department, if it was that important to them, they could create a department of people, trained people that could go and consistently monitor these things. Right? Who knows? Who knows what?
Do you guys go to any of the farmers markets around here?
We haven't been really in town long enough and sunken in well enough yet to really be consistently going to anything. We will be consistently going to the Dardanelle farmers market.
You guys gonna set up there?
Yeah, because we're gonna set up there. But on occasion we go into Russellville or come into Russellville.
Is it the one? So we used to have the gym used to be over across from the neighborhood market, and I don't know if they still set up there because I'm never over there. But a lot of Saturdays I would go over and buy honey or muscadines, or they just different things. I love muscadines.
Yeah, no, the only one I personally ever went to, the only times I ever went was with the family, but at the depot.
Okay, yeah. I think they moved it from there to the depot, and I think there might be one other at the Episcopalian Church.
Okay.
They're on Phoenix, but there's a couple, and I think it was Hope was sharing something on maybe one of the EAB pages or something that she runs, was that there's some sort of an online way to interface with the farmers as well, where you can actually do orders.
Sounds familiar. I don't know if it's through Facebook or not, but there's something going on there. Yeah,
that's nice. I need to. That's something I've been trying to get a better command of my diet, man. It's just I get so busy, and I honestly can tell you, I had a pretty good consistent diet, and then 2 years ago. Right this month, 2 years ago, we moved into this location we're in, and we remodeled everything, scrapped all that wood and traded it out to people and sold things and you name it. Too bad you weren't around then, because
for real,
I got on, and you're talking about recycled plywood. I gave away so much OSB, the just the particle board.
Yeah,
it was insane.
Really? Oh man.
It was, and even some of it was just more I'd find somebody like you and be like, if you tear this down, you can have everything. And there's some newer rooms that have been built in there. This is a construction warehouse that had really nice 2x4s.
Oh, that's great.
So, yeah. Man, that's, but that was a crazy undertaking. And I got kind of just not eating nutritiously consistently, and man, it's just
it takes its toll on you.
It does. And then I was listening to this neuroscientist yesterday on a podcast talk about all the things that lacking hours of sleep will do for you.
That's my downfall. I typically eat fairly well, but man, I don't sleep.
Yeah, and
I sleep well when I sleep.
Then I was like, well, the both of them combined. I had a podcast. It was the last podcast I had, and I'd only slept like 4 hours the night before for some reason. Something had happened the night before, and I'd stayed up late, and then I got up, went and did the Morrilton thing, came back, and I was just tired, and I was getting tired, but it was doing this podcast this time of day, and like 2 or 3 times I had like a lapse in my short-term memory.
Really?
And I started, like, I've been charting little lapses in my short-term memory, and I think, like, the last several times I've noticed the occurrence, I've been lacking in sleep. But this neuroscientist was talking about all sorts of things, like, there are actually higher rates of cancer in people that don't sleep the appropriate. Now, there is a smart percentage of the people, he said, that can function on like less than 6 hours of sleep, like 4 to 6 hours or something. Yeah. He said most people need a minimum of 7. But he's talking about like when you're repairing your body when you sleep on a cellular level, and just everything's regenerating. Being
awake is destructive.
Yeah, he said that. Yeah. He said that. He's like, yeah, we're destroying ourselves right now, just by being awake. And he was saying even when you take naps, they're talking about Edison and Einstein taking a bunch of naps, and they had all these weird theories on sleep. Einstein would, I think it was he slept 2 hours every 20 minutes, and that turned out to be 8 hours a day, or 20 minutes every 2 hours rather. But that guy was blowing my mind, and I was like, man, now I've got to start sleeping more and eating better.
That seems like such a mountain of a.
Well, you know, it's. Why I've asked you a lot of these questions about your gardening and stuff is like, because I know, like, man, it's a lot of work goes into eating healthy foods, being sure they don't go bad.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I've talked to several parents about this. You guys have twins, and then a baby girl, 3 years old or something.
She's almost 4, and then they're 8. The boys are 8.
Yeah, I can't. So then the time that. I put a lot of time into my dog out there, but I cannot imagine trying to be self-sustainable and having to take care of even one child myself. Right, and I mean, I'm sure you guys have it down to a science over 8 years.
No, we don't. We definitely don't have it down to a science, but more than we would have if we'd just been thrown into it. So I mean, it's just a day by day thing, you know, that we figure things out and we discover areas of weakness. You know.
Are you a twin?
No. Okay. I have an older sister, and that's about it.
Okay, I saw it that way. I maybe saw you post a picture or something on Facebook with somebody that looked like you. There was maybe a cousin or something then, and I was like, because I know twins typically run in some side of the family.
Yeah. It's on Meredith in this case. She wasn't a twin, but. And I'll let her tell you someday. But
is that a crazy surprise?
On her mom's side, I think it was. So yeah, it was a surprise because we weren't expecting it all. Because twins are not super prevalent in her family, but that's where they exist. And there's just none that I know of in my family.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's really interesting. But yes, it's in terms of the healthy eating and stuff like that. It really just comes down to one of us has to be, more conscious. I don't even know where I'm going with that. My point is that Meredith is really, it's just, she's made a point of making sure that we
if Cora did not cook food for me sometimes, like a lot of the time, I would just be straight Taco Bell. It's just like this new burrito's $1 and I can get it in less than 5 minutes.
I'm on it.
But
she is. It's just part of her mental daily moment to moment cycle is to be thinking, what are we lacking at home? What needs to be gotten from the grocery store?
Cora works that way too. She's always hours ahead. I'm like, we just ate lunch 2 hours ago, and she's like, what's for dinner?
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you hungry right now? She's like, no, I'm planning.
Right.
Like, oh, I was like going to start planning for like 4 more hours.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, she'll text me from working or something like that. It'll be not even 10 a.m. and she'll be like, can you put the beans in the slow cooker and put this in there too and this in there too? I'm like, wow, I wouldn't have thought of that until about 6.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm really thankful for that. But and hopefully I help out in equal ways in the opposite direction. But and that's the only way we do it with the kids. I mean, she's able to kind of cover that base for us, and I just rely on her to relay requests for me because she's unable to always actually carry out some of the things that need to happen, like putting the beans in the slow cooker or whatever. But I can do that. So that's the only way we make it work with with the kids and all the gardening and the chickens and all the freelance work and substitute teaching.
So do you do any writing with your freelance work? I know you do design stuff.
No, I'm almost 100% outside. I don't do any writing at all for the most part. I could. I went to school. The reason I moved to Arkansas was to go to study creative writing.
Where are you from?
Well, I was born in California. I grew up in California for the most part, but I moved to Arkansas from Hawaii after having lived there for a few years.
Wow.
Yeah.
The story just got more interesting.
Oh yeah, no, it goes on. There's all kinds of stuff.
I just figured like you were born in Dardanelle and
no.
met Meredith and y'all were high school sweethearts or something,
No. I had just moved to Arkansas from Hawaii, drove from California, so by way of California. I don't even know where to start. There's all kinds of details. I don't even like which part do I start. I'll just start from Hawaii, I guess. So yeah, I've been living in Hawaii for 2 or 3 years. And me and my best friend there were like, man,
how's the cost of living?
Well, we were pretty fortunate. We had, my mother lived there, so I was living with her at the time. So, and I went to art school in California. I said, that's not for me anymore. I'm not going to do that. I don't have the mental capacity to really, focus on it. And
how old were you at the time?
20, 21. Like that.
I also did not have the capacity at that time, and now I'm a professor.
Yeah, exactly.
I like literally, if you would have asked me at 21 years old, I tell people this all the time, I didn't even get my life headed in a good direction until I was 23.
Right.
And I think that based on my research and just listening to people talk about this, it has to do with your cognitive development.
Yeah.
That you're not fully you're still going to be making impulsive decisions and not planning for the future until you're maybe 23 to 25.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They say the brain isn't
fully developed
until around then. So yeah. And then for some reason the straw that broke the camel's back was someone broke into my car, and my well-being was not threatened in any way whatsoever. They just took some CDs. They took some painting paints. And some books. And I was like, all right, I'm done. No more. Because at night I already kind of, I think, mentally made up my mind that this is just not for me. And
just California itself? Or is this when you were in California?
Oh, yeah, I was going to school, art school in California. And I just said, no, I need to drop out. So I went back home. We had a coffee shop that my family had started in the Central Valley, just a small shop in a small town.
I love coffee.
Yeah, it was a great place. So I worked there for a while again. And then I finally moved out to Hawaii to do some stuff, and then where my mom was. So my dad had passed away, so she kind of put the shop in the care of my sister, and who's 4 years older than I am. So I worked with my sister, and then finally moved out to Hawaii, and to do some stuff out there, and just kind of be for a while. Worked at a Borders bookstore, God rest its soul, and and kind of lived there for a while, and kind of hopefully figured some things out about myself. I don't think I really did, but I think that was supposed to be my what's the word, excuse for being there in Hawaii. That was what I was supposed to, that was the work I was doing.
Yeah, well, I too. I had a period of time where I got a pretty decent paying job, and then the economy tanked in 08, 09. Mm-hmm. So during the Bush years, and that was when they sent out all the stipend money. They sent out I remember I got $1,000 check or something, or maybe that was in it. But I was making good money at the time, and then the government sent me a check, and I was like, "This is great, thank you." A stimulus package or whatever. I want to say maybe even got 2 checks before it was said and done. But I got laid off, and then I was on unemployment for 17 months, drawing the maximum, might I add. So, because it got to a point this particular job is commission, and I'd made as much as $5,000 one month, and then it got down to the point where I owed them money, and it was just they were like, well, we're just gonna lay you off, and you haven't it was I was selling cars. I haven't sold a car in 32 days. And I was usually selling 12, 18, but everybody was just starving. No one even drove on the lot. I mean, because like gas was $4 something a gallon, and during that when I was on unemployment, I lived at Spring Lake, and I could see the Pilot gas station billboard sign, and I watched the gas go from $4.37 under Bush while I was on unemployment. Obama gets elected, and it went all the way down to $1.37.
Yeah, I remember that. Whoa.
And I remember literally standing out on my porch, like looking at it and being like, it'd be crazy if it just, because that was a speculation, is it's gone as high as it was gonna go, and then it was gonna start coming down, and oil is going down per barrel, and but it was a good time because I made enough on unemployment that I could just go back to school and not worry about too much.
Yeah,
you know, that, man, financial instability and trying to have all that figured out at that age is a very stressful thing.
Oh yeah.
That's like I think that you just have to kind of be accepting of not knowing what you want to do. That was always my biggest hang up in college the first couple of times around, because I dropped out a couple of times, was I could not handle being there not knowing what I wanted to do and spending time and money pursuing something that wasn't going to end up being what I did. And now I view it totally like we've talked about, like, you know, did you ever complete art school?
No.
But you're an artist. Like, Meredith is not an audio engineer, but she is. Yeah. Maybe, you know?
I have mixed feelings about all that. I have mixed feelings about how, you know, having sons now, I think about my experience with education, career finding, inspiration. What's your personal inspiration for life?
Passions.
And I mean, part of me, a big part of me, really wishes I had not dropped out of school. Any of my school, any of the schools I went to, specifically art school, because I really could have made use of all that knowledge, you know, and those connections. I really could make use of them and learned a lot about persevering and sticking with something. But
that was the big thing I took away, is just like, I did it. There's proof here on this piece of paper that I did it. Maybe I'm more marketable to you now as an employer.
Exactly. And I, you know, I was there long enough to, like, you know, the loans I got, you know, I had to pay them back, you know. It's not like I could just like get my loans back, you know. So I finally got that off. That's not even that long ago in my history, but so I totally am. I'm a big believer in, you know, following your passion and letting, even if your passions end up taking you to different passions that you didn't expect, and then you go full circle eventually, and in some people's eyes, you might have wasted a lot of time on this extra stuff. Because, you know, I dropped out of school, went to California, or went back home and worked in the coffee shop, went to Hawaii, and then my best friend and I out there were like, man, we got to get out of here, because, you know, there's nothing. If you like to surf, that's super. If you like
but there's sharks.
Yeah, if you like to hike, that's cool. But if you want to own a tourist business or something like that, that's cool too. But other than that, you know, there's not much to do. There's no music. There's lots of music. You're not getting much from the mainland, right?
Yeah.
So we were like, let's go to the mainland. Let's go back to school. Hey, why not? You know. So we were either going to go to Colorado, Boulder, or go to Fayetteville, because his parents lived in Siloam Springs. We knew there's a good creative writing program up in Fayetteville. So he was going to study journalism, which he did, and I was going to study poetry, which I did. Because I was like totally convinced at that time I was going to become, you know, a poet, you know, at the end of it all, because I was writing a lot and I just loved it, and I still do. But I don't write a lot anymore, but I still love reading. But you know, and during that whole time, for years, I was not doing anything professional in terms of design or illustration. Nothing. I was not practicing it. I mean, I was doodling a lot, and I was journaling, drawing sort of things, just to keep myself busy at 4 a.m. in the morning when I haven't gone to bed yet, that kind of thing. So that was the extent of my visual creative output. So I have, like I said, I have mixed feelings about that part of my life, where if I hadn't done all that stuff, I wouldn't have met Meredith. So that's a good thing. But if I had stayed in school, I would have, you know, been probably a really much better artist. You know, I mean, I like where I'm at as an artist. I like where I'm at as a designer. I feel like as good as I think. I feel like I'm as good as I want to be at this time. And I'm not doing as much as I don't want to be, but as far as talent goes and the actual what I actually do complete these days, I feel like is as good as I would hope it would be.
Well,
So-
and
yeah.
I'm with you 100%, and I've thought a lot about this, and like just teaching at the community college. And I saw an article today, and it said trade schools enrollments are at an all-time low, while kids are lining up after high school to go get college degrees.
Right.
And literally, there's fewer plumbers and electricians, and trade get like what? Maybe is that a gilded? Is that a guild? Would you say?
I don't know.
But or unions and just different things. It's like skilled labor.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like I wonder too anymore. So okay, you go to school and you take these classes, and then at the end of it all, they say, "Hey, Bryan, congratulations, you are now an artist." Is that even a thing?
It is,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. Well,
I know it is, but
so here's my father went to the same art school that I went to,
okay,
and graduated from it, and before he was even graduated, he had a great job at Hallmark Cards, like as an illustrator in a not necessarily even at an entry level position, and so was able to really give our family and I was 2 or something like that when he graduated. So my sister was like 6 or 7. I was 2 or 3. She was 6 or 7, something along those lines. And so it really just depends on the school you go to a lot, because like Art Center in Pasadena, California is going to really make sure you get a job. That's I mean, like a huge percentage of their graduates go straight into a great job.
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's just part of the goal, and they don't want to just train you; they want to get you started, in the world. So, but there's a lot of other art schools that are just going to like give you some basic skills and some basic experience and get you a running start, but not necessarily actually get you in the door somewhere. And that's the weird thing about being an artist, and it's the weird thing about graphic design, because anybody who's got a pencil or a computer can call themselves that, and legitimately call themselves. I'm not saying but they're not. I'm saying they are. So, I guess to reply to what you were saying, it's like, yeah, that you can go to school, but you can also not go to school. But I think really the question comes down to is like, can you focus and really kind of zero in over the span of years on something that makes you happy and economically fulfilled? That's the question. And for me, the question was no, I wasn't able to. I mean, I bounced around. I was in my band, and I was in this school, that school, and I love a lot of this, and I'm happy about a lot of those things. But I really wish I wouldn't have bounced around as much as I did. But also, I like where it finally brought me when it came down to it. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. It's like, at least I mean, there was 3 years when I was out of school, I used my degree like this is literally the first time I've used it this semester.
And your degree was what?
History. I have a master of arts in history.
That's right. You said that with the other.
But really, and I mean, I enjoy doing it. It's a passion. I really like giving that guy that only shows up to take the test a really hard time every time he only shows up on test day.
Right.
But no, it's the whole gig is cool. Mm-hmm. I like it, and it's rewarding. But in a big way, it's like, okay, now I get to pay the piper over here with my student loan situation through this passion.
Yeah.
But it's nice. I've always wanted to do it, to teach classes and lecture. But on the flip side, like what I've got going with the martial arts, it's kind of the same thing. I had to receive all of this education to become a black belt or to own a school or whatever the things I've done. But like so many things that go into that business that I like. I couldn't go get an MBA and then get like being an entrepreneur Which in a big roundabout way, it's like anything self-sustainability is being the ultimate entrepreneur. In my view, it's like that's why I have some goals, some stuff you're already doing, and just seeing you guys post on Facebook, I'm like, what is it? You're doing this with pallets?
Yeah, exactly.
Did you see?
Boy.
I shared a thing. It was like it was a picture of a pallet, and it was like, I recently made this coffee table into a pallet or something.
I made a pallet out of a coffee table.
So funny. I didn't share that from your page, did I? It was hilarious.
No. I saw Meredith was on her phone or something like that, and I saw it over her shoulder. I was like, that's pretty funny. And I don't think I realized it was you that shared it, but
it was going around viral. It was funny.
I looked at, I want to figure out a way. Meredith and I have talked about this a lot. Reality is so different for people who aren't well-funded, right? Neither of us have a lot of money, and we don't necessarily strive for a lot of money either, because then you lose all your time or your soul, even. So
there's always a trade.
So I could have. One of the limitations to me to finding the ideal materials for the chicken coop, for example, is I don't have a truck. I just have that cargo sounder.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
So in preparation for the coop, and even preparation for the chicken tractor, I went on Pinterest countless times to look up all these different ideas that people doing. And of course, it's just loaded with photographs of these great coops that are made from pallets and all kinds of different neat materials and reusing different sorts of things, and they're all just beautiful, and they're really neat, and they're like perfect, and they have no holes in the floor, and there's no holes in the roofs, and there's no rotted wood laying over in the corner, and there's not no rusty nails that someone gave you, bless their hearts, because they're straight, and I took them, that kind of thing. So the nails are straight. So it's not that there's. So I guess what I'm circling back around to is that Meredith and I want to someday, I think it would be fun. We'll probably never do it, but I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be really helpful to a lot of people out there to make a do-it-yourself for if you have zero money, And
I'm telling you right now, if you just started doing YouTube videos and called it that, because every year I go to Vegas for like a trade show for martial arts school owners, and last year I got to take a class on monetizing a YouTube channel.
Okay.
And I'm actually and you're
class on that. That's cool.
It was like a maybe an hour, and the guy, I'll let you look him up if you want. Yeah. His name is Master Ken. He has a YouTube martial arts comedy show called Enter the Dojo.
That sounds fun.
Yes. His slogan or whatever is like "Restomp the groin." But I mean, this guy goes over the top, and it is great. So he taught the class, and then you're welcome to access this material if you want. Right now, I haven't finished the stuff because I just bought my jiu-jitsu idol, Hickson Gracie, who my dog is named after, just released the first ever DVD series, so I'm watching that. But Adam Carolla put together a podcasting masterclass, and it's like I don't know, 6 different videos, maybe 12 hours of content or something like that, maybe 20 hours. I've gotten through about 6 hours of it, and it's got a big thing on monetizing, but it's really not that difficult to monetize a YouTube channel, and it's weird, the videos that get the highest number of views. Like, you put how to or do it yourself or in
front of anything.
Yeah, my web guy makes money off of his YouTube channel, like doing cover songs in front of his webcam and like this other stuff, but it's all how-to videos,
right? More
or less. And he's like several months ago, was like, "Hey, there's a $300 check from YouTube."
Oh, nice.
And I was just like,
"There we go."
From what?
Yeah.
You playing that Smashing Pumpkins song? Like, it's just like, what? That's awesome.
That's good stuff.
Yeah. But that's something I'm, with the podcast and the gym page, I'm trying to do that a little bit.
Yeah. Cool.
But I would watch your videos if you did it. Because, that's like I'm asking you questions. I'm doing the same thing.
Oh, man. I wonder how well it would do, given that so much of it would be like tongue in cheek. I wouldn't be able to do it without being sarcastic through the whole thing and tongue in cheek, because Because I mean, like, it would, so much of it would be basically telling people nobody knows how to do it this way, and just be patient. Because if you don't know where you're, like, you know, your next set of materials is going to come from, and you don't even know what the lengths are going to be, you don't know if they're going to be in good condition.
Well, just think about how many people would not just be like, hey, go drive some country roads and see if there's any houses, chicken houses,
Right.
anything after a storm that was damaged,
Right.
that people were tearing down. Was there a house that was partially burned, but a segment, you know, just stuff like that. It's like if you're just looking for raw used materials that you're going to denail the boards. And
the episode after that would be like, how to find the person who's willing to drive it in their truck, or convince them to let you borrow their truck. You're like, I think
I'm getting that's one thing. There's actually an auction, a police auction. The 5th Judicial Drug Task Force is having a police auction Saturday at 10 a.m. I may go to it. But I got to get some sort of truck for just like the gym, like something I can pull a trailer with. Like, for example, we had this boxing fight. The ring is not here right now. I loaned it / rented it to a guy that owns a boxing club over other side of Searcy. Yeah. Well, he's bringing it back. We're going to set it up, have the fights, and then we're going to tear it down and bring it back here. And I also have to rely on someone with the truck.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's, you
That's
know,
how it works.
It is, man. I need a truck all the time. It's weird, just hauling stuff. I mean, I have the crossover, the Forza Mobile out there, but it's still kick the seats down. Like, I gotta go. Like, I need to go get some straw right now. Just gonna haul that in the back of my Kia Soul.
That's how it works.
That I got to pick up some straw and like 20 bags of mulch. Right. It's, you know, it's so much better if I had a truck.
You're gonna be a lowrider and dirty inside it. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. But I think that'll be good. And then the dog, we're trying to get him trained to where we take him to the gym with us during the first part of the day, so he doesn't have to sit in there all the time.
Yeah.
So
that's good. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you got any other like exciting projects? You mentioned you're working on illustrations for a book, and
other than Bash Bash, that's about it. Bash Bash is just kind of like my life's. It's where my whole life is zeroing in on this project. You know,
two people I had on the podcast that were, one of them I know is a relatively short episode, it's about an hour. A guy named Eli Craner. He's actually a local writer, but he's been able to get a whole lot of stuff published, and he's written books and things that I think he's got a couple of books that are published or in the process. He talks about all that on the podcast.
Like picture books, or are they like novel, or nonfiction? Or?
So not a lot of illustrations with his, but how I got in contact with him is a buddy of mine named Josh Wilson, and he was on the podcast, and they're both published, and if in those podcasts they talk about some cool places that picked up their works, that pick up all manner of there's one called like New Pop Lit. My buddy Josh was it was like a children's story about these two dads that go to the park together, so their kids can play. And but I think it was called New Pop Lit was the place. But they had some those guys have been when the time comes, if you're looking for publication, because that was one thing I was talking to them about. I'm like, tell me about the book game right now, because
I should write this down while you're talking.
Yes.
I will forget by the time I make it to the car.
New Pop Lit was that one publication, but Eli Craner, Cranor, and Josh Wilson, the really good episodes. I really enjoyed doing them, and both those dudes are like Renaissance men. Eli played football in college, then played semi-pro football in Europe.
Wow.
And like Sweden, or I think it was Sweden. But then he came back, coached the football team, and then he just got out altogether, and now he just like teaches like some adult education or something over there at the old I can't even remember the name of it because I'm not exactly from Russellville, but it's over there headed towards Darden. Yeah. What is that called? They have a name for it.
I went to a few Spanish classes there for
so he teaches just different classes there and writes every day, and I think helps maybe raise his kid. But he his subject matter on writing is all around like football and brain injury.
Really?
Super interesting, man. Like it's like an hour long, but and he's done some poetry and stuff too. And he wrote it. He's like, well, actually, he brought a poem with me about CTE.
Wow.
You're gonna need to know what these two words mean, and like. Then he just goes into the reading. One thing I'm going to do is that clip and a few more. I've had several guests do readings, song lyrics, different things. Yeah. And part of one thing everyone says on monetization is like with this, I have a lot of longer videos. I've been going about an hour and 20 minutes. And those are good. But if I could pull a 5 or 6 minute video of our conversation out where it just got really good, or you did a reading or whatever, and put that as a clip. Like we did that for one on gun control politics. I had a political scientist on, and we were talking specifically about YouTube's policy they had just released. And so I'm trying to build clips up, but not having a producer and being busy keeps me from going back to those episodes and cutting the clips.
Getting the good stuff out of it.
Yeah, so.
That's a bummer. But back to your question about like what projects. Besides what we got going on around the house, which is, we are in danger of starting to spread ourselves too thin, trying to be creative and making money without having to like get straight up 9-to-5 jobs where we just leave the house all day long and come back at the same time and then it gets dark and we get up and do it again. So we're really trying to combine our efforts in creative ways, and I'm super excited about like what's happening. Like, so we've got the Silver Springs truck patch, which is, basically, baked goods that are amazing. But we're sort of combining that together with, with Bash O Bash and all the garden work we're doing. So I have like, 9 different patches, dedicated to kind of help keep things organized mentally as well, through the garden. And they're all named for different Bash O Bash characters, Fast Fox and Rowdy and all these things. So, and then eventually they're gonna have signs. And I even got a sculptor friend. We're actually down the line, maybe in a few years, we're gonna start having some sculptures out there of the characters, things like that are gonna make it.
Do you do any sculpting or anything like that?
No, I don't. No, I've never done that. I've always been a big admirer.
You know what's cool? There's a guy around here that does it. Oh well, like that.
Mm-hmm.
That somebody did it with a chainsaw.
Oh, I love those. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, there used to be what I guess it was probably Tusk was over at like the foot clinic or something. There's like they had a tree fall down and they like cut a razor back into the tree stump, and then I think it's gone now. Huh. It was right down there between like the neighborhood market and Kroger, like right between those on that same side of the road. Gotcha. But that'd be cool.
Yeah, it'd be really neat. And that is just all just kind of like just daydreaming into the future, but so we're trying to kind of tie it all together so it doesn't seem like we've got 5 different projects. We're just turning it all into one family project, because my kids are basically the reason we started Bash O Bash. It was never necessarily supposed to be a money thing, which is good because it hasn't been one. I mean, we look for donors and patrons. We have our Patreon account and stuff like that, but it's not anything. It was never supposed to be like a income thing at this point. Hopefully it will be down the line, but so I really want Bash O Bash to continue being a family thing, because my kids came up with a lot of the characters. We came up with the storyline for this first book as a family, so that's we want that always to be kind of that oriented as a family project, but then as it gets bigger, more time goes into it, so we're trying to its tentacles kind of finding its way into the truck, Silver Springs truck patch, and also into different projects. That's why we have the podcast and stuff like that. So,
do you do any video illustrations?
I like time lapse things. I'll do time lapse recordings of almost everything I draw on the iPad. I share a lot of them on my YouTube thing.
That's cool. Yeah. I didn't even know you had a channel.
Yeah.
What's that? Give it a little plug real quick.
Oh, I gotta think about the.
I'm sure I can find it.
I think it's actually under my name still, but if you go to it, it's more branded Bash O Bash stuff like that. But just Google my name, Bryan with a Y, Moats, or not Google, but go to YouTube. But if you go to, you can go to bashobash.com and find links to everything there, or go to patreon.com/bashobash. and that will have links to everything that we're doing as well. So you can go to the website just to kind of get a heads up on what we're doing. There's a blog there, and we also post all the podcasts there. Or you can just go to iTunes and Google it, or Google
Nice
iTunes.
being on iTunes.
Go to iTunes and just type in Bash O Bash, and hopefully it'll be up. It'll result in the searches.
They do have a pretty good. I mean, they give everybody equal. I feel like their algorithms are built. Like I don't like YouTube. I feel like is getting sort of worse on their
Really?
just how you're gonna get organic reach.
Yeah.
Like I noticed that like it's hard to keep up with though, but on the podcast, I'm about 15 episodes behind, but I was doing thumbnails,
Gotcha.
like custom thumbnails and changing, and I need to go back and get those caught up. But I notice like if let's say I do a thumbnail, a description, and tags, it gets way more views.
Yeah.
And if I don't do those things, it gets mediocre.
Yeah.
But I don't notice that on iTunes at all. Like my iTunes and Spotify plays and downloads on Podbean, pretty consistent, pretty good. So,
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you go to the arcade coffee shop today?
Yeah, I went there on the way here.
Yeah. How's that? I haven't been by there yet.
I like it. I like it a lot. I love that they're roasting their own beans, and it tastes great. It's actually really good. I don't know the background on their roaster. Like I know, I think
there used to be like that Penny Lane or something in there, Penny University.
Right. And I think that they were roasting some of their beans there, but I don't know if they're roasting all their beans there. But as I understand it, and this is not from the horse's mouth, so I think I'm just kind of gleaning some stuff. I haven't talked to Emily about this, but the retro roast, that's what they're calling it. And I think that's all they serve in terms of coffee and espresso and stuff. It's stuff that they've roasted there, next door or wherever in the back or something like that. I forgot, but it's really good. It's really good.
Yeah, no, I haven't checked it out. Fortunately, I have a trade going with the Midtown Coffee.
Gotcha.
And the guy that owns it had a motorcycle crash and broke his body pretty good.
When was this?
5-6 weeks ago.
Oh,
he was on the podcast, Josiah Evans, but he and his wife train at the gym, and his sister started coming and stuff. So I guess got a little agreement, and I go by about every day and get a nitro cold brew or something. But I went there coffee.
One day I was looking for just a place to get away and do some drawing for a little while, and I hadn't been there yet, so I stopped in there. It was good coffee. I was surprised though. And they let me use the restroom, but they
don't have a restroom.
They do, but it's not public.
Yes,
either I really sweet talked him. I don't know if this is the owner or not, but I was able to get back there. Hey, you're at a coffee shop. You got to use the restroom. They
have and they've tried to deal. So like over on El Paso, there's that Coffee and Cones. I hope I'm not revealing anything that they haven't put out yet, but there's that. I forget, like Stouffer's Coffee and Cones or Stovers or something. I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's they rented that. And I guess those people are wanting to get out of it, and it's got a drive-through, and like it's more of a chill outside spot.
Gotcha.
That they also have a trailer, so they're gonna maybe set the trailer up, but they're trying to get. They've been wanting to get into the location for a while because that is like the downfall is they don't have a bathroom and they don't have a public bathroom and they don't have a drive-through, and they do well. And I mean, I think that if they could solve either one of those two things, it would be great for them.
Yeah, big time.
But yeah, they're in the City Mall. That's such a weird spot, man. It's such a weird spot.
Yeah, it really is. Meredith always tells me about the glory days of the City Mall back when she was a kid.
Yeah, like that Goodies has been in there my whole life, and I'm just like, I've never seen a customer in here. Like the entire time I've been an adult. Like, do you guys go whole days without selling things? Like, how are you paying the rent? Like,
or you walk in this sad little ghost town of the inside, when you walk through there, it's just.
Well, yeah, 3 businesses have gone out of the City Mall in the last year. Fredo's closed their doors, Serenity Yoga closed their doors, and Nothing Fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was a good spot, and they like consolidated. The Opal Maze went out, and they kind of came back and did like a joint effort for a little while, and then they went out too.
Yeah.
Did you ever get to eat at Opal Maze?
I don't think so.
home cooking buffet.
Good stuff.
It was good.
Oh, that sounds-
There's like all of these veggies and casseroles, and
yum.
you get to the end, and there's a guy down there named Dennis, and he's like, "You want some pork loin? Maybe some roast beef? What are you thinking?"
Right.
It's like both.
Yeah. Do I have to choose?
Yeah, so good. It was really. It's like Sunday dinner type deal. You
I
know.
can handle a buffet.
Yeah. But they too, I guess they always got like weird health code violations. I guess it's hard to do a buffet. Like not, I don't think anything crazy, but just like, hey, you can't have this open, or like how they were,
Some risky health food violations, but not actually actual illnesses.
It's city codes can be weird.
I bet.
Like when we were like, fortunately we didn't do new construction, we remodeled.
Okay.
So they're like, yo, y'all are getting off easy.
Mhm.
And I'm like, you call this easy?
Yeah, it's
Like-
it's hard.
Yeah, I mean, literally, like, they hit us with an additional, I think it was like $17,000 in code enforcement.
Mm.
And it was just like, oh, that's, it was funny because, like, I never bought commercial property. I would go back to the bank and I'm like, well, it turned out to be more than we thought. And, it's going to, and it ended up, like, before it's all said and done, I had to go back, like, it ended up being like $40,000 more than all the people had estimated.
Mhm.
And, some part of that was city codes and just different things, and the bank was like, oh no, it's not a big deal. Commercial loans are easy. And I was just like,
Okay.
getting this house was ridiculously hard. I will
Really?
say that. We put down, I think, $7,000 or something. Like, we had to borrow a little bit of money from family to put down on it, and it was interesting to like go through the whole process and not get, I mean, we got, I think I have, it was less than 5% on our rate, but it wasn't the best rate.
Right.
And it was just like, my credit score was great, but Corey didn't have any.
Right.
We had just been married for a year. Our income at the gym, since we're entrepreneurs, is a little lower than it,
Yeah.
so not to implicate ourselves on the air, but
No,
we were creative with the accounting and the
Yeah.
cutting the corners, and
Yeah.
then we have a nonprofit, and
Yeah.
it's nice to be able to reap the benefits of, if we're gonna have to pay a bunch of taxes, we can make a donation to the nonprofit and then
Mhm.
use that to kind of put back into the
Yeah.
gym if we need to.
Well, that's just surviving.
It is.
Yeah. I mean, it's not. You're not. There should. Yeah. I try to encourage people to feel. Don't feel guilt, about that kind of thing, because
I don't.
Everyone's
Do you
doing
think that
okay.
the IRS will not even be a thing like within our lifetime?
well, that would be nice, but I'd probably not. I mean, it probably will be a thing still. I think
There's
it's gonna-
this fair tax discussion I've heard more about in the last 5 years, and I'd never even thought about it until I want to say Mike Huckabee is the first person I heard talking about it. I'm not
Really?
like a big proponent or fan of his.
Right.
Other than that, like, he put up this funny video in their last election race, and it was him, and like it was snowing outside, and he was standing at a cemetery,
Uh-huh.
and he's like,
It sounds like a great comedy bit.
oh, it gets.
Coming
Yeah,
up.
he's like, I always knew when I was running against Clinton's in an Arkansas election that I would do okay if I could just beat the vote of everyone that was in the cemetery.
I don't get it, but it's
So
ridiculous.
basically, the Clintons have been accused of using people's names at the
Oh.
polls who have been deceased. I don't know. It's
Okay, yeah.
unverifiable.
Right.
But I was just like, dude, that's why, like, I have to pretext that I'm not a big Huckabee
Right.
guy, but I'm
Uh-huh.
like, I'm not a real big anybody guy. I would have voted for Gary Johnson.
Right.
But it was interesting how he framed it all up. But he's talking about that fair tax all the time.
That guy has the worst sense of humor. I'm sorry, but
Gary Johnson or Mike Huckabee.
Huckabee.
He slaps a mean bass though. Have you seen him
Yeah. I've seen.
playing up there? So what you said, you played some music? You were in a band?
Oh yeah.
What do you play?
Guitar mostly, and just like rhythm kind of stuff, and some finger picking kind of.
That's
minor.
me too.
And then a little bit on the banjo, but I've forgotten most of that. So, I mean,
I wanted to
Meredith and
get
I
a
were in band together
mandolin,
for a while.
man.
Oh yeah, we had a mandolin. It was stolen, but
Bummer.
yeah, we had all of our instruments stolen. Everything but the banjo, oddly enough. All the amps, everything, and they just left the banjo.
Oh,
which is funny to
man.
me.
This is when
But-
you guys lived in Little Rock? or?
Yeah. We were moving into a new house, and everything just got swiped before we had moved in. We moved most of our stuff in, but the power wasn't on yet because we were kind of doing a quick move. And so one night.
Bummer,
No one
man.
was there, and they broke in, took all the instruments, except for the banjo, took all the amps, took kids' electronic stuff, I think, and other things. But and my someone had just lent me their Wacom tablet, good one too, and it got stolen.
Bummer.
I was really upset about that because they just let me borrow it.
Man, luckily you guys weren't there. You know, like it didn't hit as super close to home for me, other than like this guy had been in my gym, but one of our members' dads, and she's like in her 30s, 2 kids, and her husband's a police detective here in Russellville, and her dad and mom and dad lived in Michigan, and her dad was murdered in a home invasion. And they were like, he was able to, I want to say that he either wounded or killed the invader before his wife got, like, I mean, it was a bad deal, like, but it was
terrible.
Yeah, I know. I mean, and that's like every time I hear somebody say something, they got something stolen, I'm like, I was just thinking yesterday, I was like laying in bed, going to sleep last night, like assessing where all of my guns were in case anything ever happened. And I'm thinking, it's this weird, like it was so much easier when I lived in an apartment.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I'm like, well, you know, have some renter's insurance if I want. If things get stolen, you know, I feel like the apartment place is going to be at somewhat of some fault if somebody kicks my door in.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but I'd feel about it totally differently now that I have this house and all of this stuff in it, and it's like, man, I've had friends that have been broken into.
Yeah. Hopefully, cross your fingers that won't happen here or anywhere again. But yeah, no. So the band question. Yeah. So Meredith and I started a little duo in Fayetteville. You know, I think before were we dating yet? I can't remember if we were dating first and then started playing, or vice versa. I'll think about it hard enough I can get it, but I waste a lot of time. So and then a bunch of friends came on board and we played for a while and recorded and stuff like that, and put out a CD, and then shortly after that we were done. We went on a small tour, like up to Nebraska. I think that's as far as we got.
Cool, just kind of you like folk style, or
yeah, like sort of dark folk, kind of not folky folk, like as in like traditional folk. It's more of a acoustic.
See, yeah, that's how you might have seen my guitars hanging on the wall. Those I just got that 12-string. Man, the Facebook Marketplace.
Stuff.
If you're ever looking for stuff for do-it-yourself,
I actually have seen a lot of good materials in there. Again, I couldn't really move without like creating a whole orchestrating this great sequence of trucks and timing and everything.
Yeah.
So I just give up on it.
Yeah, that's you know what a djembe is? I've been showing this to a few podcast guests. I scored that on the Marketplace just a while back, man.
Nice
it's
little
like
cover too.
Buffalo hide head. So pretty cool. It's got a super deep tone to
it. The handle on the side looks like
it does. I think it's more of like you put a strap for your shoulder. But $100. That's like, but this is like a $400 drum.
Nice.
Somebody's just needing to get rid of it, and I almost bought some bongos they had. I didn't want to spend that much money on it, but I was like, I've been wanting one for a long time. I bought one in Eureka Springs for $19 at a Memorial Day sale, and we're pretty sure that they sold it to us because it was like $100 retail online, and I was just like, yeah, I'll take that. $19. So yeah, but that 12-string hanging on the wall in there, I got on the Facebook Marketplace.
Nice.
And I saw somebody selling a Takamine. I'd always wanted one too, and I play it less than anything I have. I don't know why, it sounds beautiful, but I saw somebody selling a Takamine that was like, it was used and it had a hard shell case with it, and they were selling it for like $400, and I was like. I bought that 12-string, which is an acoustic electric with an onboard tuner and a hard shell case for like, I want to say like $275.
Pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, really, I paid cash for that other Takamine in there back when I was working that job right after high school and making decent money, and I paid cash for it and got them. I tried to say stop saying the phrase "Jew them down."
Oh yeah, that's a good
That's a
thing to remove.
racist phrase.
Yeah, you want to get that out.
Yeah, I never even thought about it until I saw a movie.
Or if you've been gypped.
Oh yeah. Oh, like gypsy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a derogatory.
Isn't it crazy? Like, I don't know. I've just been talking about, I remember the first racist joke I was told as a kid about O.J. Simpson.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I probably in the last 5 years, there was, an old joke from my youth popped in my head. I'm going to say it's about 5 years ago, maybe even less than that, sadly. You know, I'm 41 years old now. I should have gotten.
I turned 31 last week.
I should have gotten a clue 20 years ago, but about some jokes and things like Jewing down and jipping like that. But no, there was one that I didn't even tell the joke anymore. But I tell the punchline because it just is something easy to say. And I want to go into it. But I keep on repeating the punchline to this racist joke. I need to stop that. And I'm nearly 40 years old.
Isn't it like? But it's self-awareness or. Just awareness of others. I mean, I never thought about it. And then like one day I was just like, I saw this movie of all people. It's a really good movie. It's called School Ties. It's got Brendan Fraser in it and some other famous actors. But he's this like famous quarterback and goes to this prep school.
Okay.
Well, he's a Jew.
Right.
So, he gets there and like the first night he's there, someone says like, I'm gonna Jew you down or something like that. And I was like, and then he was just like, oh, they hate Jews, you know? And I was just like, oh man, like honestly, like seeing that, I had never even thought about it. Like like my dad grew up going to flea markets and stuff and yard sailing, and it's just like
part of the nomenclature.
It was. And I'm still like, even in the history books, it's like, I cannot fathom as much anti-Semitism as it existed all throughout history. I don't even understand it. Yeah. Like, I'm like, is this all over the Jesus thing? Right. Like, what's going on here?
It's amazing. Yeah, it's far deeper than I'll ever.
And I just saw today in Germany, Jews are having a difficult time right now. Mm-hmm. They're marching on the Capitol, and they were not like the state mandate or anything, but deterred from wearing their beanie, little skull caps. Yeah. I can't remember the Jewish name that they call them, but
yarmulke?
Is it yarmulke?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but. That is like, as soon as I read that like anyone was deterring them from wearing that, which is obviously a cultural symbol. Right.
Is it like for your own good, so you don't identify yourself, you should stop wearing these?
Basically, there's been attacks on Jews in larger cities, like on the streets and stuff.
Oh,
racist, like hey, I'm assaulting you, whatever.
I thought you were saying there was attacks.
Yeah.
Like they're like, well,
you will pay extra.
That's like, that cannot be.
That's funny.
There's been like
and I was I just saw that today, and I was so surprised to see it, and I was like, because someone had just also turned in a paper on Adolf Hitler in concentration camps, where they turned in papers today. Yeah. It's going to be the bane of my existence the next few days.
I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah. I was just like, the test, I was grading super fast, and I started to grade one of the papers, and I got like a page in. I was like, this is 5 pages. Man, I'm done doing this for 10 minutes already. Grading essays. It's interesting.
I know that I could do that myself.
Yeah. I wonder, so Meredith does a fair amount of substituting, right? Mm-hmm. It's got to be a good gig. Somewhat.
Yeah.
I've considered doing it in the past.
Yeah, it depends on the grade. I mean, if it's basically it's anything from kindergarten to high school, and even special ed stuff. Like what do you call them? The contained classrooms.
Yeah, or alternative school and school suspension.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's good because it's frequent. It's frequent-ish. It's usually at least 2 or 3 or 4 times a week, but does
she have to do any grading or anything like that?
No,
that's nice.
Mostly just kind of making sure they don't die in the classroom. Basically, I mean, there's plenty of teaching. There's definitely teaching involved, and there's plenty of the disciplinary side of being a teacher, like just making sure the kids are being
class.
good, behavioral issues and stuff like that. So it doesn't pay well at all, that's for sure. There's not really any benefits, but it is a relatively steady stream of money. So, but there's also, I know from her telling me that there are upsides to it too. Just, there's that, you can be somewhat of an influence, and the kids seem to really like her a lot, and in all grades. You think they're in high school, they seem to be, you have to get over, the kids have to like spend the first part of the day testing her, like, poking a little fun at her clothes, at her shoes. But then, like, she won't go in for that. She'll like, she has a really great skill.
That's funny,
yeah, exactly.
man.
Yeah. And then, but then next thing
not.
at the end of the day, they seem to be like really quite engaged with her. Like, like they're quite into her being there. And I think because she has a great skill in diffusing. She's a really great diffuser. She's able to like, turn things around and make them see what they are doing, and kind of they realize, okay, I can't really pull that off with this teacher, first of all, and like this, I can't take this, like, say I'm Joe, class clown, whatever, and I normally, when the substitutes come, I take control of the classroom, because I'm the humorist of the room, and I'm the biggest personality. But she's able to like actually kind of like make them face what they're doing in a really neat way, and totally turn that off. It's really neat without like demoralizing or threatening. She's not like a I'll send you to the principal, or like, you little jerk.
I had a teacher that ran things in a similar way when I was in high school, and she's actually had moved back here from Houston to take care of her mom in Russellville. Her name was Nancy Coslet. And I've tried to see if I couldn't find where she was or what she was doing since, but she was such a unique approach and would do that. And then she wasn't all about, and she cussed like a sailor, but she was not all about like getting the principal involved. Yeah. Like one day I remember there was a guy in there, and this like athlete, and he went on to get in some trouble. I don't even know if he graduated. I know he got kicked off the senior basketball team for like something drug related, I want to say. But I remember we were in 10th grade pre-AP English, and this was her first like week on the job. And we had just had all like mild teachers coming up, and this lady's like, he was doing something. There was a kid in there we called Fonzie because he always wore a leather jacket. And it was like, we were bullying him by calling him Fonzie in hindsight. Like, I wasn't really on, like, but that was just like what everybody called him. And like, he wasn't a popular kid, and it wasn't a good name to be calling him or whatever. Yeah. It wasn't because he was cool. Right. And like, she picked up on this, and she goes, you stand up. You tell this entire class you're an asshole. And he's like, stands up, just like ghostly look on his face, and is like, I'm an asshole. And then sits down, and like that was it. Like then it was like great. She was a legend after that point. It was just like I remember I turned in a term paper for her, and like I wrote it on Kurt Cobain. I was an emotional teen, and it was like, I put all this work into it, and it was all like, hey, Miss Coslet, how'd I do on my paper? I'm almost done. I mean, she like never turned the papers back to us, and like it's like last day of school, and I'm like, so do you know what my grade was? She was like, oh yeah, 100. And I was just like, oh, so you liked it? It was good. She was like, yeah, you made an A, so don't worry about it. And I was just like, oh, okay, cool. We'll see you later.
That one you did on,
yeah, it was funny.
Reagan.
Yeah. But it was funny. I don't know if she even, and now that I'm like teaching, I'm just like, somebody asked me today, they're like, did you even read my stuff on the back? I was like, looked good. Like I read through it. It seemed to have the main 5 things I was looking for. Did I read it word for word? No. Did it seem like it had any fake facts and stuff you made up in there? No. Do you come to class all the time and you have an A right now? Yes. So maybe I let it a little less,
thoroughly.
but it is some students, like the stuff that they pull on the answers. I'm just like, there was one today, it was like IDs. It's like who, what, when, where, why.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, he just did like little dashes and then like a few words. Like,
yeah.
And he did like 5 of those. And 2 of them said the same thing. Like number 1, number 4 said, give France a constitution or something like that. And one of them just said France.
France.
I was like, okay, so where? We got that. And it's like, we're doing French Revolution, which is 1780s and 90s. He was like 1300s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like every time I see stuff like that, I'm just baffled.
Yeah.
I'm like, I was like, I remember one time, like I finished my whole logic test and sat there for like 55 minutes because I was hung up on one question.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's the worst.
Oh, I know. Like, and I some of my students that are good students they go through that period. Like, I just can't remember this one. Mm-hmm. And they get every other one right. And it's like a fill in the blank. And I always do bonus points so they can still.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's helpful.
So, my last test, I graded a little bit on a curve because it was just that finally. And then I started actually taking attendance points, and we got, I think this time everybody got done super fast. I didn't do an essay this time either.
Gotcha.
So
there we go.
Those essays, I did. They did writing IDs, but man, those essays I guess take way longer than I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For some people, if you're me, I mean, I it's just so many different brain types out there, and it's the thing is like, some just are easy. Some kids or young people are going to just nail an essay, like Meredith, essay queen.
I felt like I was good at essay writing.
Any other form of testing, it's way more challenging.
Yeah.
Take the same class.
Well, it's interesting too. I talk about Gardner's multiple intelligences a lot for. Fascinating model. I talk about it for jiu-jitsu and martial arts, but like today there was a girl in there that's like, oh, finals are coming up, and she had like a little plastic box with a lid full of note cards, and she'd made all these flashcards for all of her classes. And I was like, I don't work that way, but you work that way, and I see that you have a system here, and this is great. I was like, this is like, they wanted me to do this for my master's thesis when I was doing they wanted to do the note card system. Wow. One of my advisors had done that when he was getting his master's thesis. So, but man, well, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
Sure.
We've got an awesome conversation. Thanks for taking the time to come on out.
My pleasure.
Leave the patches and the garden and everything behind, and the non-brooding chickens.
Yeah.
But it's been awesome sitting down. Maybe either have you and Meredith back on together. Or Meredith, I can do multiple setups. Yeah. I was wanting to I'm trying to balance more female guests. That way it's not a brocast.
Right. Yeah.
But
get Meredith on because she's wicked smart.
She really is.
Will blow your mind.
Does it get your heart rate jacked up watching her get punched in the face?
Oh, no, it's actually really exciting because I know how much she loves it.
She
does.
If
she gets hit, I care, obviously.
She's very in a positive, constructive way, like hard on herself when she's like learning something new. Like, oh,
right.
I see. Why can't I do it? I know what you're saying, and it's just like, that is getting your body to convert information into physical movements is not easy for me or a lot of people. Some people it comes naturally, but I'd love to. I'm having another guest on that we're going to be talking about. They run a nonprofit for autism, for support group and stuff. A girl named Allie Tomlinson. She's bringing another girl. But definitely, I guess with Meredith, you just don't run into people that have. Well, just like what you're doing, it's like bold thing. Like I have this history thing going on, but previously when people were like, "You work at a martial arts gym?"
Right, yeah.
Like, and I'm like, like chokes too, kicks,
all those
punches.
things. Yeah,
like Bruce Lee. Yeah, that
sure.
Whatever you want.
Muhammad.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's one of the neat things about people in general, but you and also Meredith is like. You're both of you are history buffs in your own different ways, and you see the relevance of having a rich intellectual life, but or not just the relevance, but the how it's just essential to life. But also, you want to kick some people, and you want to punch, and you want to have this intense physical self, and she's discovering it later in life, but she's embracing it fully. I think that's so neat, and like I hope to get there someday at some point. I'm not necessarily going to go your guys' direction, but I have to get back on the bike. I like to
she said you're into because I just asked her in passing. I was like, hey, does Bryan want to, because I was like, when you're done signing the shirt, I was like, does he want to choke people or hit things or anything like that?
Right. No, I just
she's like, no, it's it's more into cycling. And I'm like, there's like a lot of my guys that do stuff, or like there's a lot of good trails around here to ride, mountain biking, and you do more
of the time. I don't do more of anything really. I haven't been on my bike since I've moved.
I got my bike actually got stolen at my apartment. I had a commuter, like a hybrid, more of like a road bike with like some thicker ply tires on it. But it was a great, super light.
Oh, that's sad.
It was KHS. I really liked it, and I'd done some upgrades to it. But I just one day I pulled up after morning class and got out, and I noticed it wasn't there, and I'm like, well, I wonder how long it's been gone.
Yeah.
I hadn't ridden it in like a couple weeks or something, just because of weather.
Yeah.
But that's
I just haven't been. I can't find the time and I'm like most people. If I'm going to do it, I really want to do it well. I'm not a recreational, just get out every so often, once a month kind of thing. If I'm going to start riding, I want to ride it often. I've got my dad's old bike. It's just a beautiful road bike, racing bike, Richie. I mean, it begs to be ridden, and it begs to be ridden fast. But I just don't. I mean, I can't get anywhere and spend that amount of time in this time of my life. I'm not able to like put the bike in the car. I don't even have a rack or anything. So disassemble the bike, put it and stuff it in the car, drive here to Russellville and to the trails. There's so many dogs out there, and I had to ride a long dirt road to get to the nearest paved road, which is my bike is not made for dirt.
Yes, exactly. That
gravel,
commuter, I couldn't ride it on gravel either.
Yeah,
I could hit it in town on any surface, but like gravel was not a good fit.
I'm afraid I'm going to crack the frame or something. It's a racing bike. It's made for roads and roads alone. So I know if I really, really wanted to get back on that bike, I would, and I could if I just really forced it. But free time is non-existent. So one day that'll open up, I'm sure, and I'll get back on the bike.
Well, I got. Do you like cycling at all? Do you ever watch any cycling
on TV and stuff?
Like Tour de France or anything?
When I can't, I haven't had actual like TV, like cable.
Yeah,
So it's like one of those things where I might look up some videos on YouTube or on.
I just can follow in passing, but there's a documentary on Netflix I'll recommend to you called Icarus. Like,
I think I know about that, but I don't know that
it's okay. It's actually about it's a conspiracy that's been proven about a state-run Russian doping program. So all about the Russian athletes. Mm-hmm. Well, this all started because this guy was a cyclist. Mm-hmm. I can't remember which one you call him. Okay, so cyclist, and he does this race. It's an amateur race, and he places in I think like the top 25 maybe. Mm-hmm. Does somewhat well, and he's been cycling his whole life, and had a bad accident earlier, and this is I think he's in his like early 30s, later 20s or something. And he's documenting it, and then so he wants to get a doctor to dope him. So the whole study is like after the Lance Armstrong. So Lance Armstrong was on Joe Rogan's podcast,
right? Okay.
And the guy that busted Lance Armstrong like a week apart were on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Whoa.
So those in companion with this Icarus documentary. Which it just takes this weird turn. It starts off as a documentary about this guy who's cycling. He wants to start taking injections. He wants to see if him doing all the doping is going to make him place the top 10 instead of the top 30.
So he wanted to do it more as an experiment than anything.
And he had never done any steroids or anything. Yeah. So that part of the documentary goes off in a different direction, but the guy that he starts getting that he's working with is the Russian doctor, and during their whole thing, this dude has a shifting like guilt or whatever, and it's like, I'm a bad man. I've been doing all this for Russia and blah, blah, blah. And we did this, and I've been doping these athletes for this long. And
wow.
Yeah.
I need to check that out.
So that guy, the doctor, is now in witness protection in the United States.
I imagine so.
Yeah, it's a sad story, but it's a very interesting. If you're into cycling at all, I bet if you ever are working around the yard or anything, like anymore, why I like don't use much YouTube and use the podcast app is so I can put it in my phone or put my earbuds in. I'm listening to podcasts while I'm moving around. History on Fire is one I just started listening to. It's so good. I told Meredith about it, but this guy named Danelli Balelli, he's a historian.
Oh, I heard you mention that on
Hope.
Hope.
Yeah, man. Oh, I just watched these 3 episodes and they just like gut wrenching.
I'm like her. I'm like, that name can't be real.
Yeah. Danelli Balelli. Yeah, it's funny, dude. But
gotcha.
Well, man, again, thanks for thanks for taking the time. Tell Meredith we said hello, and we'll have to get back together someday.
Will do. Sounds good.
All right, wrap it up. Bam.